When you picture a car, you see the big stuff, the body, the engine, the seats. But beneath the surface, thousands of tiny parts keep everything running. Among the most critical are valves, small, precise components that control the flow of liquids and gases throughout the vehicle. They're in the engine, transmission, brakes, and even the climate control, each one engineered to open and close at just the right moment. Their reliability is crucial. A single faulty valve can halt an entire assembly line. The North American auto industry relies on a just-in-time supply chain, with parts, like these specialized valves, arriving at factories exactly when needed. This system saves money and keeps production fast, but it's also fragile. If even one key part is delayed, the whole operation can grind to a halt. Here's the twist. Most of these specialized valves come from southern Ontario, Canada. They're not generic. They're custom-made for specific vehicles, produced by factories with unique expertise. For years, this cross-border supply chain worked flawlessly. But now, a sudden change in Canadian policy has thrown everything into chaos. The dependable flow of valves has become a source of anxiety for U.S. automakers. Without these tiny parts, billion-dollar assembly lines in Michigan and Ohio are at risk of stopping cold. The crisis isn't about what you see on the road, it's about the invisible components that make modern vehicles possible. The story of the North American auto industry's latest challenge starts with these tiny, overlooked valves. Their absence threatens to bring the entire system to a standstill. It's a reminder, sometimes the smallest parts matter most, and right now those small parts are at the center of a big international showdown. Let's see how it all unfolded. Canada has introduced the Valve Control Act, a new law that tightly regulates the export of high-precision automotive valves. It's not a ban, but a system of permits and quotas, giving Ottawa control over who gets valves, when, and how many. The official reason? National economic security and a push to bring more auto assembly jobs to Canada. The message to automakers: if you want a steady supply of our valves, invest in Canadian plants. This move is possible because decades of government support made Southern Ontario a global leader in valve manufacturing. These firms have unique technology and skilled workers, making them irreplaceable in the short term. The new policy was rolled out quickly, catching the industry off guard. Now, every valve shipment to the US needs a government permit. Automakers with bigger Canadian investments get priority. Others face delays or reduced shipments. The result? A once invisible part has become a powerful bargaining chip in North American trade. The Valve Control Act has upended the supply chain overnight, and the consequences are rippling through the industry. Ford and GM are feeling the pain. At first, delays were minor, a day here, a day there. But as the Valve Control Act took hold, shortages grew severe. Assembly plants in Michigan and Ohio are now missing critical valves for transmissions and engines. Without them, production lines stop, costing millions each day. GM's top-selling trucks and Ford's flagship models are all affected. These aren't parts you can swap out or buy off the shelf. They're custom-engineered and require months to source elsewhere. With no quick fix, both companies have cut shifts and parked unfinished vehicles waiting for missing valves. Dealerships are frustrated, customers are waiting, and billions of dollars are tied up in incomplete cars. The crisis has exposed just how dependent U.S. automakers are on a single Canadian supply chain. The ripple effects are hitting workers, profits, and consumers across the country. A policy change in Ottawa has become a full-blown crisis in Detroit, and there's no easy way out. The auto supply chain is like a line of dominoes. Knock one over, and the rest fall. Canada's valve restrictions have triggered a chain reaction. A missing valve in Ontario halts a sub-assembly plant in Ohio, which then stops a GM factory in Michigan. Trucking companies lose business, suppliers slow production, and dealerships can't deliver vehicles on time. Customer frustration grows, and brand reputations take a hit. Uncertainty spreads, plant managers can't plan, workers face layoffs, and inventory piles up. The just-in-time system, once a strength, is now a liability. The entire ecosystem, factories, suppliers, transporters, dealers, is thrown into chaos. One small part has created a massive disruption. The dominoes keep falling and no one knows when they'll stop. The industry is scrambling for answers. Ford and GM are in crisis mode. They're scouring the globe for alternative valve suppliers, from Mexico to Europe, but retooling takes time. With limited valves, they're prioritizing their most profitable vehicles, luxury SUVs and trucks, while cutting production of smaller models. Some cars are being built without certain features, with promises to retrofit them later. In extreme cases, they're flying in small batches of valves at huge expense just to keep lines moving. Lobbyists are pressuring both governments, warning of job losses and economic fallout. The companies want the Valve Control Act suspended and negotiations reopened. The stakes are high, the integrated North American auto industry is at risk. Every day the crisis drags on, the pressure mounts. Ford and GM are fighting to keep their factories and their futures alive. The next move could decide the fate of the industry. With billions at stake, both sides are searching for a solution. US automakers want the Valve Control Act repealed, calling it protectionist and damaging. Canada is using the crisis to push for new investments in its auto sector, especially for electric vehicles. A likely compromise. Canada guarantees valve exports in exchange for Ford and GM building new plants or battery facilities in Ontario. Both sides get something, US factories get parts, Canada gets jobs, but the lesson is clear. Relying on a single region for critical parts is risky. Automakers are now planning to diversify their supply chains even if it costs more. The crisis has exposed a vulnerability that can't be ignored. In the future, expect more parts made in the US and new suppliers in other regions. The goal, a more resilient, less fragile supply chain. The current standoff may end, but the industry will never be the same. The scramble for solutions is reshaping the future of North American manufacturing. The next chapter depends on what happens at the negotiating table. As the dust settles, the North American auto industry faces a new reality. Ford, GM, and their workers have lost billions and faced layoffs. Customers are frustrated and waiting. Canadian suppliers, once trusted partners, now risk losing business as automakers seek alternatives. The Valve Control Act has strained cross-border relationships and forced everyone to rethink old habits. The real winner? Supply chain diversification. The crisis has shown that just-in-time efficiency can be dangerously brittle. Automakers who invest in more resilient, diverse supply networks will weather future storms better. The future depends on compromise and rebuilding trust. If diplomacy prevails, the industry can recover stronger than before. But if not, the era of seamless North American auto production may be over.